It's not just the kid who's just watching the screen and eating, it's the parents too. So everybody is watching their own screen and eating. It's like such a wasted family time. So if you're using a big screen, anybody in the house can monitor exactly what your child is watching instead of them being exposed to inappropriate content on the small screens. Cocomelon are designed to be addictive for kids. If you have younger kids and you still want them to entertain, go for the audio instead of the videos.
If you make mealtimes fun, talk to them about the day, use fun utensils, if you eat with them, they will not need the screen at all. If you are in a situation where your child is eating with the screen, here are some tips. Hey parents, welcome to another episode of the Modern Indian Parent Podcast, a podcast that is redefining parenting in Indian families. I'm Sanchita Daswani, a pediatric nutritionist.
And I'm Rinie Gupta, a pediatric sleep consultant. And today's podcast episode is dedicated to managing screen time for our kids. And we're going to tell you about strategies that anyone and everyone can implement to control the screen time so that their child can have more time to dedicate to things that matter and promote their growth.
When it comes to screen time, the general recommendation is below 2 years of age, they recommend 0 screen time and post that maximum 1 hour a day. Now, of course, as parents, we're realistic. We know it's hard. We all know that excessive screen time leads to sleep issues, brain development issues, vision issues, lack of social skills, and speech delays.
But you know what, parents, you don't have to worry about this because we do understand your problems on a very personal level. And I just want to give a disclaimer that this is not a holier than thou episode. We are not screen-free parents. We are here to share strategies that we have learned from our own failures and from our own wins that have helped our children to develop a healthy relationship with screens. And do watch till the end because the last strategy that we're going to discuss is about how to delink mealtime from screen time, because I know that is the struggle of our entire generation of parents because their children just would not eat unless the TV or the phone is there. So watch till the end. And let's jump into the first strategy. The first strategy that I have for you is especially for parents whose children are just too into screens. And I mean, they need it anytime they're bored, they need it anytime they're eating, they're constantly demanding and crying for screens. If you are in a situation like that, I completely understand where you are at because I have been in that situation before. So the thing that you need to do is a complete screen detox. Trying to gradually reduce screens is only going to lead to endless tantrums in your house. So just pick a week. You can go on a holiday that week. You can just be planning something else that is more interesting for them. But you need to have a complete break from all screens, TV, iPads, phones. And trust me, this applies to you too. If you want to watch TV, you can do it when your kid goes to sleep. But in front of them, the whole family takes a complete break from screens. And what this allows the child to do is sort of dissociate the various things they were doing in the day that were linked to screens. So they will sort of start learning how to eat without it. They will start learning how to play without it. And once their system rewires and reboots, then you can reintroduce screens in a healthier way with better boundaries. So the first thing you need to do, complete screen detox, lock away your iPads, really like if you need to use your phones, try to do that not for entertainment purposes and put like screen, like app blocks on certain like apps that you don't want your child to access, and definitely just switch off the TV or disconnect the cable. You need that detox. Make it at least 3 days, minimally 3 days, can be up to a week.
It's not like it's going to be all roses. They're not going to be like, sure, mom, we will be off screen time. So one dialogue that really helps is to explain to them first why you're doing it. Number one, you acknowledge their feelings. Say, I understand it's hard. Then number two, hold your boundary. Say, as we discussed, there's no screen this week. And number three, give them something to look forward to. How about we go play Monopoly together or Twister together? So it's going to be tough, but if you use this dialogue and you acknowledge their feelings, it will be easier to handle this strategy.
Oh my God, those are such amazing and necessary tips because yes, this can be a daunting step for many, but just follow these boundary setting and acknowledging of feeling tips that Sanchita has just given you. And then once you are ready to reintroduce screens, these are the tips that you need to follow. And the strategy number 2 that I have for you is a big screen only rule. All right, so screen typically comes in three forms. You've got your big screen, which are your TVs, the middle screen, which are your iPads, and then the small screen, which are your phones. So if you want to keep your child's screen time under control, implement a big screen only rule. That means the only time that they're allowed to watch screens is actually on a TV. And there are many advantages to that. The first one is that when you're on the move, or when you're just in different places where your child is experiencing a bit of boredom, we can be inclined to like quickly giving them our phone. And that's where the screen time usage just kind of piles up and becomes a lot more than what's recommended for your child. But if you have a big screen only rule, you need to be at home, and then you are able to have a much better control over big screens. The other thing is that in small screens, children are getting used to watching YouTube shorts and Instagram reels, and they're getting into this thing of like where they're swiping. And this has been shown that this leads to a shorter attention span. And as they develop, it's kind of stays short instead of learning how to focus. So to avoid this from happening, if you do it on a big screen, then they have to watch dedicated shows, and they can't just like swipe across like short form and very fast moving content. And the third very important thing is safety. We are seeing reports of very inappropriate content, such as that related to sex, that related to violence, that is being portrayed in the form of cartoons, and it's showing up in the content that your child is probably watching on YouTube. And it is so scary to think that, like, you may think that your child is just watching another cartoon. Maybe they're watching an episode of Bluey or Spider-Man, but what they're actually watching is depiction of a sex scene. And that is something that obviously you definitely want to protect your child against. So if you're using a big screen, anybody in the house can monitor exactly what your child is watching instead of them being exposed to inappropriate content on the small screens. So do try this, a big screen only rule, which is like a midway between no screens and what your child is doing right now.
And for me also, I felt big screen also helps because they're further away from the screen, so that at least for their vision as well, I feel with the phone and the iPad, you tend to be a bit closer. So I felt the big screen really helps keep that distance.
Using a TV has been so much better for us, because earlier my kid would keep like snatching for my phone, and I really did not appreciate that. So once we kind of put that strict boundary that mummy's phone is for mummy's hands. That's what I used to always tell her when she asked for my phone. I said, no, mummy's phone is for mummy's hand. And let's say once in a while, if I want to show her some videos or some pictures of her cousins, then I still continue to hold my phone instead of just going like, hey, there you go. And then she's just doing whatever. So this is a great rule that's going to help you manage screen time for your child. Which brings me to strategy number 3. Just because you're giving it on a big screen doesn't mean that they're allowed to have unlimited time. And I think one thing that parents always tell me is that my kid cries a lot when I try to switch off the TV. And I just want to give them an example to understand why this is happening. All right. So imagine you are watching your favorite show. Let's say Friends. Friends is my favorite show. Maybe you're watching that episode where Joey is learning how to speak French. And it's such a fun episode. You're so engrossed in it. And then out of nowhere, your husband just comes in and was like, hey, switch off the TV. It's time for dinner. And you would feel so irritated by that. And you'll just be like, but I am in the middle of an episode. I really want to see how this turns out. Or even if you're at the end of the episode, if somebody just comes and takes a remote and just switches it off, you would lose it. You absolutely would. So why wouldn't a child feel the same way? You are taking away too much power from them. And a much better way to going about switching off the TV or ending or limiting screen time is using a visual timer. So this is a visual timer that I've been using for like 2 years now. It's an absolute game changer, because let's be real, time is a very arbitrary concept. I tell you, if you didn't have a clock or a watch, you wouldn't be able to tell how long 5 minutes is. So when you tell your child, okay, 5 more minutes, how are they supposed to know what is 5 minutes? Like, what does it feel like? Versus when you use a visual timer, I can actually put on 5 minutes on this timer, and my child knows that slowly as the time passing, the colored section of the visual timer is getting smaller and smaller. So she visually is able to tell how much time she has left. Let's say, she's watching an episode of Bluey. I know one episode is 7 minutes long, and I'm going to allow her 4 episodes today. So that is like, so I just put it at like 28 minutes, and, that timer is running. And once that timer runs out and the 4th episode ends, it rings, and that's when we tell her, all right, now it is time to switch off the TV. And this is a very helpful strategy in helping your child understand how much screen time they're allowed and sort of transition away from it a bit more peacefully, instead of them feeling that like, what did you come and do, and just throwing a very, very big tantrum about it.
Yeah, I also have the same timer, and I also have the sand timers as well. So if you're doing a short amount of period, like 20 minutes or so, those sand timers are really cute. I use them for meal times as well.
Amazing. And I think the main thing about the use of the timers is the timer itself will not get your child to get very okay with switching off the screen. It is how you enforce the use of the timer. So I'll give you an example. Let's say the timer rings and then your child still throws a tantrum, which is normal, which is expected. And then you say, okay, fine, 10 more minutes. And then you put another 10 minutes and then you walk away. And then when the 10-minute timer rings and then you come in again, they throw another tantrum. They're like, okay, fine, 5 more minutes. Okay, that's the last one. So your child sort of learns that even if the timer rings, it holds no value. Because if I just cry hard enough, I will get more screen time. And that is going to continue the cycle of tantrums instead of using a timer effectively to stop them. So a very important thing is to be very consistent with the use of the timer. And when the timer rings, it is time to switch off the TV. I think a line that I always like to tell my toddler, which I feel works really well, is that I let her choose who is switching off the TV. So the timer is rung, and I will just come and tell her, the timer is rung. Either you can switch off the TV or I can do it for you. And I tell you, 9 times out of 10, she will say, okay, I will do it. I will do it, because they really want that autonomy to be able to do it on their own. And then she switches it off, and then we move on to the next thing. But being very consistent with your rules and your boundaries is going to make this timer work.
And I feel what I would do sometimes is I'd put the timer and then I'd walk away, and I'm like, maybe I'm in the middle of something and the timer goes off. There,
Yeah.
you have to make sure you go and remind them, because sometimes they are so engrossed, they will continue. And sometimes I'm so lost, and I go and I'm like, wait, the timer went off how long ago? So we have all of these tools, but you still need to be there as a parent to make sure that they are actually being enforced, or the caregiver, nanny, whoever is there, because kids can still try to take advantage. But I think it's really helped me for my kids, as you said, to visualize time, which when they were younger, they were not able to do.
That brings us to the next one, is that, okay, you've got big screens, you're limiting the time, but now it's about when in the day are you offering screens. So I'll give you an example. If you're offering screens as a replacement for boredom or a gap in their day where they don't know what else to do, and you're just like, okay, fine, just watch TV at this time, what's going to happen is that the more opportunities that your child has in a day to be bored, which is going to happen a lot, that's the more number of times they're going to seek out watching screens. Thus, is if you actually have a specified timing for your child to be able to watch screens. And the example could be they can watch right after they wake up from their nap, or they can watch for half an hour once they are back from soccer practice. I mean, whatever thing, that timing that works for you, you decide that and you incorporate that into your daily routine. I'll give you my example. My kid, she comes back from daycare and then she's allowed 30 minutes of screen time to relax, unwind, eat her snack. Like she will eat some fruit while she's watching screen. And it's very much fixed in the day. So even if she continues to ask me for screen time, like she will tell me at like 8 in the morning, Mommy, I want to watch 5 episodes of Bluey. And I said, is it time for it yet? Do we ever watch TV in the morning? She's like, no. I'm like, yes, I want to let you watch TV, but you have to wait till you come back from school and then we'll watch Bluey together. So having a routine to it is very helpful. And then what something that will help you again to transition out of screen time is, in addition to the routine, try to plan something that they will also look forward to after screen time. And again, just an example, once screen time ends, that is our playground time. So when I do tell her to switch off the TV, and then I say, okay, it's time to go to the playground, she's like quite inclined towards it, because then I actually have something ready that she's looking forward to. It doesn't have to be outdoor time. It could be puzzle time with you. It could be some other activity or anything that they actually have to look forward to, so that they are like, okay, you know what? It's okay if screen time is over because I've got something else that I can do instead. Sanchita, what are your thoughts about that?
Yeah. So I feel one important thing is about boredom, because a lot of times, and I've done this myself, if my kids are home the whole day, I feel like they're bored. And I'm like, you know what, just watch TV. But what I've actually learned is that when I leave my kids to be, I can see how creative they get. They start role playing because they're together the whole day. They do all these activities running around. Their imagination is amazing. So I agree with you to have that set routine. And another thing that's important is that in every house, it will be different. Like I was telling my friends, I feel when my kids come home, and some of my other friends were saying this, their child, like they're in school for 8 hours. They want to come home. They want that downtime to watch TV and just de-stress because that's what we do also. And I said, I think my kids need it. But some of my other friends were like, no, in fact, when they come home, I feel if I give them TV, it stimulates them and gets them very fidgety because they're already so tired. So if I show a screen suddenly, it just stimulates them a bit more. So we prefer that they actually don't have screens and have it later in the day. So I think it's important to find that routine that works well and suits your child. There's no one answer for it, but yeah, have that set routine so they're not asking for it throughout the day.
Most definitely. And I think we are suggesting timings, assuming that the screen time is allowed daily. I have seen lots of families that
Yeah.
only allow screen time on weekends. So, like Monday to Friday, there are no screens. And only on Saturday and Sunday, maybe they're allowed like 30, 45 minutes, an hour, whatever works for your family and your child's age group. Then that's what they're allowed. And then the next strategy, right, is looking at what your child is watching. All right. So, I already highlighted earlier that getting exposed to short form content in the form of YouTube shorts and Instagram reels, that is a big no for your children. I mean, it's so addicting for well reasoning adults that we end up like spending 2 hours just scrolling, like doom scrolling and sacrificing everything else. Can you imagine what kind of impact we'll have on the little brains of our children? So that is a big like no. But then when you come to looking at all the other options you have, I feel like they're endless. You know, everything from Coco Melon to Choo Choo TV to Miss Rachel to the number of kids' shows and Disney movies. You can get pretty lost in terms of like, what do you pick, right? And I'll tell you from my experience, I thought that Coco Melon is the best thing that I can show to my baby, when she was not even a year old, because I thought that the music and the dancing will help in her development. And the reason I got this idea is because I saw the popularity of Cocomelon. Like there were billions of subscribers and viewers, right? On top of that, I saw friends and family around me showing Cocomelon to their kids. So it sort of made me feel like they must know what they're doing. But now we have so much research showing that Cocomelon and shows like Cocomelon are designed to be addictive for kids. You know, the bright contrast and the fast moving images and the imagery of song and dance, constant engagement. Like, no wonder when my kid used to watch it, it looked like she has just been like hypnotized. Like, I think she would be afraid to blink. And I felt that is awesome. Like, she's learning all these new songs, but I don't think she was learning anything from it.
With Coco Melon, the issue is if you watch it, and I didn't realize this, every 2 seconds there's a shift in the angle or a shift in the scene completely. Plus, the music beats are changing constantly. So it is very overstimulating. And every time I would turn it off, my kids would have a major tantrum. It was really, really bad. Some shows on Netflix that have worked really well for my kids are Trash Truck, Llama Llama. There are a few Octonauts, Lucas the Spider, Puffin Rock. I have a list of these. And on Amazon Prime, there's also some great ones as well. Curious George, Clifford, If You Give a Mouse a Cookie. So all of these shows, even if you watch it as a parent, you feel calm because there's not that loud sound and the lighting is not bad. So I think it's about choosing that right content, and per age there's different content as well that works.
The cartoons that you have mentioned, I have watched a few of them and actually do really like it. I want to give a shout out to Bluey as well. I think that is like our current household favorite. We Bluey is on Disney Hotstar, or you can even watch it on YouTube actually. And I feel with Bluey, one of the very wonderful things is that they don't have any like make believe themes. Like, you know, cartoons like Paw Patrol and stuff, like there is a superhero dog army and all of those things. And those are interesting, themes. But with Bluey, what they're doing is that they're just exploring the daily lives of a family, like, mom, dad, and two children. I think over time, my child has learned a lot about creative and imaginative play, which is something that they do a lot in Bluey, that they do a lot of role play kind of episodes in which the parents are really involved and they're discovering the power of play. And we've actually tried a lot of those games at home, and I'm telling you, they are amazing. There are certain things that she has picked up which are a little bit funny, and I don't like it when she does it at home. Like, she started saying, not fair, just the way Bluey says it in certain things, but my kid just says it out of context for anything that she doesn't like. And I find that a bit irritating. But I think that's the thing, right? Every show comes with pros and cons. It's just about picking one that you feel, okay, this works for my child likes it, and it's not too stimulating. And when I switch it off, what you mentioned, it doesn't lead to like a full blown like tantrum. That itself is a very clear sign whether or not it's a good show for your child.
I was just chatting with a friend of mine who has a 2-year old, and she was saying why she likes Bluey is exactly what you said, because they talk to each other as adults. It's about real life kind of conversations. It's not baby talk, it's actual words and it's actual relationships. So I think that also helps keep that connection between what you're watching and, actual reality for kids.
Most definitely. I think some of the episodes, like, I have learned so much from them. Like, they explore such meaningful themes, but in very child appropriate ways. Like, there was this one episode in which they explored how their aunt is actually infertile and not able to have kids, which is why she's not able to come and meet them and spend some time with them. And just they were able to show it. Or there was an amazing episode, I actually tried this, where if you're feeling really upset, how do you get rid of that upset? Is that you just have to collect that upset from your body and throw it away. I feel these are such simple but beautiful coping skills and themes that I feel we may not be able to explore, but Bluey does that, and I like it for this. So, I mean, the main thing that this strategy that we were telling you about is that how to pick better shows for your kids. Bluey is obviously one that we both recommend, and you have heard so many other recommendations from Sanchita. We'll put a list of it in the description below so you can choose on your streaming platform of choice, which brings us to the next tip. As I mentioned earlier, I was giving my child screens because I thought it's going to help her learn those songs, and I knew how important music is for her development. So that's how we sort of turned to Cocomelon. But then I realized we could just as easily replace those songs to audio instead of video. So that's the next strategy. Instead of showing them the video of the shows and Miss Rachel and Cocomelon, you expose them to the audio instead. So you can play them on Spotify, just put it up on your speaker, connecting it to your phone. One thing that worked very well for us was using our home assistant. So we have an Alexa at home, and we used to just be like, okay, Alexa, play kids song, or Alexa, play XYZ song. And over time of doing this, my kid's first sentence, like the first sentence that she put together was, Alexa, play do 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 do. And only I understood what she was saying. What she was saying, she's like, Alexa, play Baby Shark, because it's Baby Shark do 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 do. And she was just about 15 months old at that time, and I was just blown away that she wanted to be entertained and she knew she could get a very easy form of entertainment by playing songs on Alexa. So this is something, if you have younger kids and you still want them to be entertained, go for the audio instead of the videos. What about you, Sanchita? Like, how do you think that has helped with your older kids as well?
So what has really helped, so we have Google. So, our kids will be like, hey, Google, play this song. And it's really helped because I also noticed when they're playing it on Google, if they're playing a song, they actually dance or they move. So they're actually being active compared to when you're sitting and watching, you'll just end up sitting and watching. So I think it's really got them moving and to just enjoy the moment and enjoy the music. And another very important thing is podcasts, because podcasts has been a great way to engage them, but not use that visual sense as well. And it actually gets them to sit down, listen, pay attention, learn good lessons. And it's been a game changer for us. And even when it comes to meal times.
So tell me, what podcasts are your children listening to? Like, what are some child appropriate podcasts right out there?
Yeah. So there's quite a few. There's some Disney ones as well that are great. Actually, I have the whole list. It's on my Spotify. But I will put the link down below because I can't remember. But my son also listens to some of the Liverpool podcasts because he's a football fan. So he enjoys that. There is Thomas the Engine has some great stories as well. And then also, if you just type like bedtime podcast for kids, sometimes before sleeping, if you feel they just want to hear something, it's a great option as well.
Amazing. So, like, that's what I was thinking. Either go for podcasts or audiobooks for older kids, and for younger kids, go for more of nursery rhymes and songs. And the last strategy that we have for you is how to delink meal times from screen time to dramatically reduce how much screen exposure your child is getting in the day. And for that, I'm so glad we have Sanchita here. Sanchita, please hit us with your best tips on how to delink meals and screens.
If you are in a situation where your child is eating with the screen, here are some tips. Number one, when your child is watching the screen, all their senses are engaged and you're feeding them. So, what I'd recommend doing is first, for a day or two, lower the volume. Okay, because if there at least one sense is kind of zoning out. Number two, if you can try and mute it, at least in the last maybe 10-15 minutes, so they're just watching it for a bit. Then the next thing I would recommend is get off the screen and try and do books. Okay, because obviously at mealtimes, your child is used to watching something or doing something. So if you move to books, at least then, they're a little closer, they're kind of still looking at the food, the connection is there. Okay. Then after the books, what you can do is some people like to do stickers. So then you're bringing them to the actual tray where the food is. Then the last thing I'd like you to do is if they still need some stimulation is two things. Number one, podcasts. So as we spoke about before, that is a great option because what's happening is a lot of kids, they don't want to sit still. Okay, they need some type of engagement. So at least if they're sitting with the podcast, they're listening, but then the rest of their senses can be used for the food. They're touching, they're looking, they can actually enjoy the taste of the food. So podcast works really well for my kids when I feel like they just don't want to sit for the meal. So I say, okay, let's listen to a podcast or let's listen to a song. It's okay. We can all sing together at the dinner table. And I think the point of all of this is, why do our kids watch TV while eating? Because number one, we want them to finish the bowl. So first, you as a parent have that right mindset that I want them to actually listen to their body. And number two, why do they watch TV at meal times? Because meal times are boring. I mean, we've learned to sit and eat, but kids are like, we don't want to sit and eat dal, rice, and like a sabzi for like 45 minutes. No. But if you make meal times fun, if you sit with your child, if you talk to them about the day, if you use fun utensils, if you eat with them, honestly, they will not need the screen at all. So it's really about redirecting that fun and what they're looking at meal times and actually letting them enjoy, and also understanding why they don't enjoy meal times, which I think I can go on for a whole episode on that.
Yeah, family meals are a game changer, honestly. We if you envision most of the meals that we have with our kids is us sitting in front of them, and then we're either feeding them, or even if they're self-feeding, we're just sitting there and just staring at them. Versus if we are able to switch around at least some of the meals in which we are eating with them, we're having their dinner with them or lunch with them, that itself is such a big motivation for them to stop looking at the screens and interact with us instead. And of course, we need to model that too, because I kid you not, I go to restaurants now, and I tell you, it's not just the kid who's just watching the screen and eating, it's the parents too. So everybody is watching their own screen and eating, and it just makes me feel it's like such a wasted family time. So let's start making some changes, right, in terms of their screen exposure. So Sanjita, I had a question for you. How fast do you recommend making these changes, like from lowering the volume to muting to just books and so on? Like, how fast would you make these changes?
I think if you take 1 week for each one, and also see some kids can skip a step. Some of them you can just turn the TV off and go straight to a book. So you have to see how into TV your kid is, and also how much you are ready to commit. Because you can be strong and hold it, but you have to be ready as a parent to make these changes. And also you need to be around, because if you leave it to someone else, it might backfire in that way. But a lot of times we show screens and we do certain things as parents because it's the easy way out. And I've done it. Okay. And my kids also do sometimes watch TV while they eat. Like I allow them, because even I do it. It's not an everyday thing, but I do allow. But I think sometimes if we just take a step back and understand why do they need the screen, why do they not want to eat, and know that every child can and something's coming in their way, I feel like we won't rush to these quick fixes. So I just had to vent that out, because I just feel like so many times we use the easy way and we all did it. But if we understand from our kids perspective, we can really change the game in parenting.
Yeah. Oh, they're so right about that. Just understand the root cause so that we are not switching to these quick fixes, because it's just about understanding that if it may solve your problem now, but it's only going to cause a bigger problem down the road, right? So might as well look for the real cause so that we're not introducing other challenges in our children's life. So wow, I think we have learned so many things from this episode. And like I said earlier, these are strategies that really anybody can implement. We are not tech free parents, we are not screen free parents. We just want to have our children have a good relationship with screens. And you know what? These strategies have helped me have a better relationship with screens as well, because I need to model them for my child. So I hope you have a great time implementing them. If you like this episode, please hit the thumbs up button, leave a comment about some strategies that have worked for you to manage your child's screen time, and do subscribe to our channel to find more such parenting content about every aspect to make your journey easier.
Thank you guys. See you on our next episode.